Hi friends, in this video we will download Ubuntu Linux Docker image from Docker Hub and try to perform some basic commands on the image and container. Okay, so go to the Docker Hub official website and search for Ubuntu. Make sure that you have official images checked. Click on the very first image. Okay, you have it as Docker official image, and you will also see that you have docker pull command that you can copy, and what it will do is basically it will download the latest version of the image. And it is always good practice that you go to the tags and look for something that is a stable version, and here we have 20.10. Copy this command here, pull command, and go to the command prompt, paste it and hit enter. So this will download the image from the Docker Hub. Now let's list all our images. Okay, you can see that Ubuntu is downloaded. Now let's try to run the container by using run command. So we have docker run followed by the name of the image. Okay, and make sure that you also give the tag name. The reason why you need to give tag name is if you don't, what happens is it will try to search the latest version locally, and if it is not available, it will download it from the Docker Hub. Okay, and so it's always important that you also mention the tag name. So now let's hit enter, and you can see that let's try to list the containers, container ls a, and you can see that the container was created and exited 7 seconds ago. Now the reason why it was exited, okay, the moment you create it, okay, by using run command, and it was exited, is because the container needs at least one process running within it. So containers are designed such that, okay, if there are no task or process running inside it, it will stop. Okay, they are not a full-featured operating system, right? They are used to perform tasks. Okay, so that's the reason why, once you create, there are no tasks and it stopped. Okay, so the next command that we can look at is, if you observe that the name here is Sleepy Boyd, instead of Docker creating a random name for your container, what you can do is you can give a custom name here when you're trying to run the command. So let's try to do that. Say docker run name. So then the flag that we are using is name, and try to now give some name call. Let's do Ubuntu Docker, okay, or container. Let's say that as container, and now followed by the name of the image, Ubuntu. And now if you hit enter and try to list it, and you can see that a container was created with name Ubuntu container. Okay, and you can see that there is also a command, bash command, that is executed. And how it comes is, if you go back to the Docker Hub and click on the image here, and you can see that the command here is bash command that needs to get executed. So that's how you see here command. So now how do we interact with the container? How do we know exactly what's happening inside, or what is within that container? So you can see here we have a bash command. So let's try to pass some command to it. Okay, so that way at least a process is running within the container, and we can then try to interact with the container. So how do we pass? Okay, now what I'll do is, okay, before creating any other container, let's try to clean up this top container so I can use the same name. So what I'll do is I'll use the prune command, une, and say yes. Now if you see that I don't have any containers in stopped state, now let's say docker I'll use the run command and pass sleep command to this container. Now what it will do is it will execute sleep command for 10 seconds. Now the reason why I'm using 10 is, if by default what happens is when the container is running, and if it it will run in attached mode or it will run in foreground. So let's see what it means is, now if I try to hit enter here, you can see that the container is running and I can't do anything. The only way to get out of this is to either wait for 10 seconds so that no process is running within the container, or else what I have to do is I have to press Ctrl C. So that is how the container runs. They run in foreground. Okay, so to make them run in background, we can use another flag called D, that is detach flag. So let's try to do that. Before that, let me try to clean up so I can use the same name. Now what I'll do is, okay, I'll use this and sleep again, sleep 10, and this time I'll be using a detach flag, and this time let me use some more seconds here. So what I have in my Docker run command, I have the name, okay, and the name is then followed by this, then I give the detach command and the image name followed with then the command that needs to be executed. Now if I hit enter, you can see what it prints is it prints the Docker ID. Now if I try to list the containers, and you can see that my starter is up, that means my container is running and running the sleep command, okay, and the name is Ubuntu container. So it will be running for another like 90 seconds, and then once the process is completed, it will stop. So now how do we interact with the container? How do we get in with container? So that is an command or options, okay, called interactive flag. And how can we list all the options that you can use with run is docker run help, and you can see that these are all the available options that you can use with run command. Okay, so we just looked at the name command here, right, the name, and let's look at interactive now. So what interactive does is, if the user wants to interact with the Docker container, it's just like, if you are a Java developer and you want user to key in some input, you use system libraries, right? So that way user can now input some input through keyboard, right? So that way here also you can interact with container using interactive option, and most of the time interactive option is used along with the terminal option. Now what this does is it will link your host command line, okay, or terminal with the container terminal. So how do we do that? Let's see in our command, but before that let's see if our container is still running, and it says that it's exited 28 seconds ago. So let's try to create another one, and if I say this time I have to, and what happens if you try to create another an existing container, it will give you an error. Let's try to see that. If you see it gave you an error because it says there is already a container with name Ubuntu container. That's the reason why I was trying to clean up every time I run this run command. So either you can rename this when you're trying to run it. Well, let's do one thing, let's clean up so I don't need to change the run command. So now here if I want to go, if once I run this, okay, the container is running. If I want to interact with the container, what I will do is docker container. Okay, I use execute command. I'll discuss in a bit what execute command is, and then I use my interactive command, then the ID of the container, that is here ed. If you look at here, it is ed, and then I give one of the command like bash. Now what this will do is this will take me into the container. You can see that as a root I am within the container, that is ed81. okay, it just picks the starting few digits or letters of the container ID. Now if you can perform any commands here, so like if I do ls, and you can see that I have the same file system as a Ubuntu Linux operating system, right? So that way you can interact with Ubuntu container. Now once the sleep command 100 seconds is completed, it will kick me out of the container. So now if you see here, I used execute command. What execute command does is it will, it will execute a command once you're inside the container, right? And you want to, it will tell you that, okay, you're telling the container that take me to the bash command, and that way you can pass one or more argument to your execute option or command. So that's all about we have for few of the very basic commands that you can use with container and run. So let's look at one more command, that is inspect. Now if you want to know all the information about the container, okay, that is either in running or in stopped state, and you want to get all the details like the image that it was created from, or the date when it was created, and the network it is using, and the volume it has, volume or mounts that it has. So you can use inspect command. So how can you use this? Docker container inspect followed with the ID, container ID. Here it is ed, so I'll do that. And you can see that it gives you basically a JSON format of all the file information or the Docker information. It gives you the network information, okay, and then it also gives you the image information, that is Ubuntu 20.10, and the command that you used. And if you scroll up, it gives you mounts that currently we have none, so it's empty. And if you scroll up, you can see it also gives you the name of the container and the ID and when it was created. So yeah, that way you can use inspect to view all the information of the container. I hope I discussed all the basic commands that you can use with run, image, and container. And if you want to look at more of the options that are available with run, let's type docker run help, and we'll be looking at more other options like volume, work directory, and publish. Also, like we'll also look at host, flag, environment. All these other options we'll be looking in depth when we are working with creating our own image files. Okay, so for now, I guess the basic commands that you will frequently be using, like detach and interactive options. So I guess you are now clear with those basic commands. That's all for the video, and I'll see you in the next session.